Hey y'all, what's up? My name's Kelsey K, otherwise known as KelseyKMUA, and I wanted to thank you so much for being here today. Guys, so today, thank you so much for joining me. This is going to be my kind of like beginner series. And so in today's video, I'm going to be talking about different items that are going to enhance your complexion through your primer, as well as how to select a shade of foundation. So let's go ahead and quit jabbing and let's go ahead and get on into it. Okay, so guys, here I have three of my favorite primers. So here we have the CoverGirl True Blend Base Business Moisturizing Primer. And then I also have here the Ulta Beauty Poreless pore filling primer, and then we also have the Rimmel Stay Matte primer as well. Now I love all of these primers for different reasons, and another good way to try to determine what is going to be the best primer for you really heavily depends on your skin type. So for me, I have a combination skin type, which means that I am very oily through the T-zone, and then on my cheeks and then on the perimeters of my face I'm very dry. So for me, sometimes it might depend on what type of skin day I'm having. It might have depended on the type of skincare products I applied before doing my makeup, which will really determine the type of primer that I use. And it also kind of depends on how long I want my makeup to last as well. If I'm going to a special event, or if I'm going to a party, and if I'm going to be out all night long, or if I am going to be having a really long day, then I might want to choose something more like the Rimmel Stay Matte primer, just so that then I don't get oily through the T-zone. And then if the weather is really dry out, say it's like the middle of the winter, Michigan winters here are brutal. So I might want to even do something more along the lines of the moisturizing primer, or maybe even a mix of the pore filling primer as well. These types of primers are not great for me personally if I am going to be having a really long day, because my natural oils do tend to kind of come through. It doesn't really stop my natural oils from coming through and then breaking down my foundation, but they do make my cheeks look fabulous. So in the places on a day-to-day basis, if I wanted to be super extra and apply all three of these primers in different places of my skin, let's go ahead and do that. So I'm going to go ahead and take the Ulta Beauty Poreless Primer, and I'm going to apply that to my cheek area to reduce the appearance of pores on my cheeks. I'm really going to press this into the skin to reduce the appearance of pores. Next, for the T-zone, I'm going to go ahead and take the Rimmel Stay Matte primer. This is going to help reduce any of the oil production on my skin, and is going to help my foundation last longer throughout the day. And next, I'm going to use the CoverGirl True Blend Base Business Moisturizing Primer around my eye area, as well as the perimeters of my face, to reduce any flakiness underneath my foundation. Okay guys, so now that the base is all kind of laid down as far as primer, let's go ahead and talk about foundation. So here, as you can see, I have three of my very favorite, very well-loved Maybelline foundations. So here I have the Maybelline Superstay 24-Hour Foundation. I also have the Maybelline Dream Urban Cover Foundation. And then I also do have the Maybelline Dream Radiant Liquid Foundation. So these three different foundations, not only do they have different properties and different formulas, they also have different undertones. So when you are looking for a foundation, you want to match your foundation to your undertone rather than to your surface tone. So your undertone comes in about 3 to 4 different tones. You can be cool tone like me, or you can be a warm tone. You can also be a neutral undertone, and sometimes you can even have an olive undertone. So when you are looking for a foundation, you want to shade match to your undertone as opposed to your surface tone. I'm gonna show you what I mean by those three. So one of the best ways to shade match your foundation is by taking just a little bit here on your finger, and then going here along the jawline, here also into your neck. And you can kind of blend this out with your finger. And another really important thing is you want to pay attention to the dry down and kind of what it's gonna look like once it's completely dry. A lot of foundations do tend to oxidize, which means that they kind of tend to get a little bit darker. Sometimes they can end up being a little bit more orangey, which is what we definitely want to avoid. So the Maybelline Superstay 24-Hour Foundation here is what I have in shade 112 Natural Ivory. In the Dream Urban Cover, I am shade 120 Classic Ivory. And I'm gonna put that right here underneath that swatch and blend it out. And then with the Maybelline Dream Radiant Liquid Foundation, I am using shade 30 Ivory Beige, and I am going to right about here. So guys, as you can see here, I have the 3 different swatches of the 3 different foundations here on my neck. Here is the Maybelline Superstay 24-Hour Foundation in the shade 112 Natural Ivory. This one here in the middle is the Maybelline Dream Urban Cover Foundation in the shade 120 Classic Ivory. And then this one here is the Maybelline Dream Radiant Liquid in the shade 30 Ivory Beige. And as you can see, they have 3 very different tones to them. So this one here is more along the lines of like a neutral tone because it's not really quite yellow and it's not really quite pink either. This one here in the middle, which is the Dream Urban Cover, is more of a golden tone. It's a little bit more yellowy on me. So this is more of like that warm tone. And then down here we have the Dream Radiant Liquid. This here is the Ivory Beige. And this one here is a little bit more along the lines of that warm tone because it's a little bit more pink. Sometimes depending on the type of year, I can tend to float between the 3 different shades. I am a huge fan of mixing foundations to kind of get the right shade and the right tone, especially since when I go out in the sun, I tend to get really, really red, but I never really get any deeper as far as like shades of my skin. So I've become very accustomed to mixing different foundations to get the right tone and undertone, as well as different shade for my skin type. I think today the look that I want to do something kind of full coverage with my makeup today. So I think I'm just gonna go ahead and use the Maybelline 24-Hour Superstay Foundation in the shade 112 Natural Ivory to do my complexion. I am gonna kind of let these sit for a little bit too, just so you guys can kind of see how different the dry time is. So I'm gonna go ahead and stop this. We're gonna take a picture and then we will come right back. Okay, so for foundation application, I'm going to do my favorite thing, which is going to be using a blending sponge to apply my base. So I'm just going to go ahead and dip that sponge into the product on the back of my hand and just start applying. And notice how I am using a tapping and bouncing motion as opposed to a dragging. You do not want to drag your foundation, especially with a sponge, because what you're going to do is you're going to end up with a ton of product here along the jawline and it's just not going to look pretty. This is my biggest pet peeve, guys, and one of the things that I tend to always forget when I'm doing my face is to make sure that I am getting my ears and this portion of my face right in here. It drives me bonkers when I forget it, and then sometimes I'll be editing videos and I'm just like, well, I have to scrap the whole freaking footage because I forgot to get my ears again. Okay guys, so the base is all laid down. At first glance, this looks very, very light on my skin tone. However, once we get everything kind of all like bronzed up, it'll start to look a little bit different. But what I also want to jump into is concealer. So because the foundation shade that I used today is a little bit more on the fair side, I am going to be using the e.l.f. Camo Concealer in the shade Light Peach. That peachy tone does tend to go very well with my undertone as well. It's more of like that cool toned, but it's not super cool. And I don't want to use a ton of concealer today because I want this to blend very easily. I'm gonna go ahead and take that here along the jawline. And then again, blending out with my sponge in a tapping motion. You want to be extremely delicate when you are working with the under eye area to ensure that you're not tugging and pulling at the skin and creating wrinkles. I'm also trying very, very, very hard to blend this more here into my neck without messing up those swatches because I want you guys to be able to see the difference in the dry time. I'm really loving the way that my hair looks today too. I was like, let me just go ahead and curl my hair for this video today so I don't look like such a slob. Normally when I'm getting ready to go out somewhere, I do my hair after I do my makeup just so then I can kind of have my hair pulled back in a bun or in a ponytail or something so I can really get the areas like right here. Oh my goodness, it always drives me crazy whenever I have like a really, really pale looking scalp in comparison to the rest of my face. Especially once I bronze everything up, it's kind of just like, okay, we see you. You're lying to us, you're not actually that tan. Now to set everything down and to make sure that I'm gonna get a longer lasting look. Now to set everything down, I'm going to go ahead and use the Coty Airspun powder. This is the translucent extra coverage. Like most everyone else on the internet, when I first heard about baking, I was like, ooh, I wanna do that too. I wanna look flawless and beautiful. But then the very first time that I ever tried to bake under my eyes, I was like, oh my gosh, I went from 25 to 85 in literally 60 seconds. So I do not bake under my eyes. If I do bake anywhere, I bake my nose just so that then it kind of creates a barrier between the setting spray and the foundation, which helps the longevity of my foundation. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to gently tap here into the powder. I'm gonna go ahead and tap off that excess. I'm gonna start here with the forehead in small buffing motions, very, very lightly. I'm actually going to try to hold my brush here towards the back of the handle so that then I get a little bit less precision and I'm not going to be nearly as harsh on the skin. Okay, so let's go ahead and bake that nose so that the foundation is going to last longer around my nose and then my skin will look flawless all day long. So I'm just dipping my sponge here into the powder. And I'm first going to go ahead and tap that here onto my nose, and I'm going to tap also here into the side crevices of my nose to really make sure that this powder is gonna get right in there, because this is where I tend to get extremely oily. And my biggest pet peeve is when the rest of my face looks awesome, but then right here, my nose looks extremely red because all my foundation has rubbed off and I'm just like, ugh! Okay guys, so that there is the finished base. I really, really like the way this foundation looks right now. So even though it's very full coverage, it's also still very natural. I have let these different swatches dry down quite a bit. I'm going to go ahead and insert a picture side by side so you can see the difference between the two. You can see that now after about 10 minutes or so, you can see that the swatches on the right have definitely dried down and that they have oxidized quite a bit. So that shade there on the bottom, that was the Dream Radiant Liquid Foundation in the shade 30 Ivory Beige. Does tend to get a bit darker. So you definitely want to make sure that when you are selecting a shade of foundation that you want to be able to go into the store, not only test it on the back of your hand to maybe see how it's going to dry down, but also see how it's going to look after about 10 minutes of wearing it. Just kind of go into a store. You can swatch a little bit right here on your chest to see how it's going to look after about 10 minutes and maybe not look crazy. Also, make sure that when you are selecting your shade of foundation that you are selecting, again, for your undertone as opposed to your surface tone. Guys, thank you so much for watching this video today. If you liked it, go ahead and give me a big ol' thumbs up. It helps other people find the video. And if you want to help other people find this video even faster, you can share this video and make sure you subscribe to my channel and hit the little notification bell so you can see more videos of me doing stuff like this. Thank you so much. I love you so much, and I'll see y'all in the next one. Bye, y'all.